Hello, everybody. It's Becky here, Aunt Beck's Creations, and we're going to make another owl. I have last week's owl sitting here, and I unpinned her wings and pinned them on a little better, so it looks like she's flapping her wings. So this is the little owl that we made, not last week, because I was real sick last week, but the week before last, we made this one. And then this whole thing started with this homemade poor little thing that I made from an old work basket magazine that I had bought from Keisha. And so I said, we're going to make some owls together. Hi, Pam. Now, today's pattern I drew up yesterday and I put it on my community tab. So if you haven't printed that off yet, you might want to go and print it off. The actual pictures are right there, but if you have trouble opening them, there's also a link to my OneDrive to this particular folder for these owl patterns. So in the Google Drive folder, you'll see Owl 1 and Owl 2. You need to print the pieces for Owl 2, which is you'll get a wing, which we'll be cutting 4 of those. You'll get a base, and you only need to cut 1 of those. And then this is the body, and we'll be cutting 2 of these. So if you haven't printed those off yet, you might want to go and do that real quick. It won't take you but a minute. So that's where the pattern is located on my community tab. I also put it in my Facebook group on Facebook, of course, and I thought I'd just come on and say hello. I'm still getting better. I'm not coughing quite as much, but my voice still sounds a little not normal. But I figured we'd muddle through this. Hi, Kathy. So I have picked out this swirly print for the wings. And what I've done, I've already pinned this through 2 layers. I'm only going to cut 2 out at a time. And the reason I want to do that is I want to cut them out in pairs so that we are working with the piece that's on the top of each one. And the reason I want to do that is I want to make sure our sets stay together. So let me cut this one out and I will welcome people as they're coming in. Again, if you don't have the pattern printed off yet, you need to go visit my community tab real quick and print your pattern off, okay? When you are laying things out to cut them out and you need 2 of something, you always want to do them with the right sides together so that you get one that's a mirror of the top one will be a mirror of the bottom one. That way, when you put them right sides together to do your stitching around the outer side, the edges will meet. So that's the reason you want to do these right sides together. And I'm just going to pick this up so I can see what I'm doing here. And I'm just cutting along the edge of the fabric. And you know, the reason you always say don't use your fabric shears on paper means you also, when you're cutting something out, so you're cutting, just on the outside of that black line. Now, this is a pattern of my own creation, so we might run into a few little bugs. I did not do a preview sew up of this. All right. we're going to cut our pieces out. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just take this pattern off from here, but I want to pin these this set together. So I'm going to pin them together and then take all these other pins out. And then I'm just going to move this aside and bring my fabric back over. And I am trying to cut this kind of straight on grain. It doesn't have to be perfect because this is not something we're going to wear where you have to worry about how the bias on a piece will warp. Like if this was a pair of pants and you cut it slightly off your grain line, what will happen when you wear those pants is you'll get that twisting around your leg. Because this is a craft project, I'm not 1,000%, sticking with it has to be straight on grain. The thing you do have to make sure is that you're getting 2 full pieces. You don't want to have this hanging off the edge and, you know, but I have my fabric folded right sides together. I'm going to go ahead and we'll get our wings cut out, and then I'll cut out the other pieces. And I hope you guys can see okay with the way I've got this set up. I played around a little bit this morning to make sure you could see the sewing base and this section here. And I did iron my fabric really well so that both layers of fabric are nice and smooth. So let me say good morning to everybody. Well, afternoon now. Oh no, Pam, your pattern printed out huge. The owl body should print out to 7 5/8 inch tall here by 5 5/8 inches wide. And the wings should be 5.5 inches tall by about 4 3/4 inches at its fullest part. And then this base piece should be about 5 3/4 inch from tip to tip. And in the center, it should be about 2 5/8. So if it's bigger than that, you're going to have one big owl, Pam. Kathy, the pattern is also in my Facebook group, Aunt Beck's Creations. Oh, you're going to have to get over on Greg's laptop. At noon. It's about noon. It's 11:57 here, which is noon for me. And I figured I could get on here and start cutting this out, and then we can get questions asked. Pam says it's almost 10 where she is. She's midway across the country. And Kathy's all the way on the other side of the country. Yes, I'm feeling so much better. I had stopped taking the cough medicine because, when you've been on it for so long, it just gets to where it feels like it's drying you out too much. So I quit taking it. Yesterday, I only took 1 dose yesterday, but then this morning I was having some coughing. So I said, I'm going to take some so that I'm not coughing throughout, everything. And hi, Janice Glines. Let's see. Oh, you printed borderless, so that's it. Yeah. Hi, Shannon. Shannon, I loved your page. I watched that last night. Hi, Safia. Safia says it's 5 p.m. where she is. On my community tab, I actually have a link that takes you to my OneDrive, and they open really easy there. All right, I'm going to go back to cutting out wings. I've already cut out one pair, so I'm going to cut out this pair. And you're probably thinking, why are you cutting out so many wings? It's because we're going to do something to it. Put my little bits aside here. All right. And I did put on each piece if you are on Facebook and you do a right click on the images and tell it when it does the drop down menu and you tell it open in a new tab, that's where I have the easiest way of printing them off. Then you jump over to that new tab where the patterns open up. Then you can right click it and tell it to print, and it will print it. That right click button on your mouse is an awesome tool once you learn all the shortcuts that it opens up for you. All right, so there's my wings. I have 4 wings. We'll set those aside. Now, I'm using 2 different fabrics for mine. The wings are the swirly, and then I've got this here for my bodies. And I could have, I'll show you the fabric. It's got a little bit of a stripe that's hard to see. So I was trying to determine, do I want the stripes to go up and down or across his body? I think I like the up and down. So again, make sure, because I'm using a scrap of paper, make sure you are getting the pattern so that it's, when you cut it out, you're going to get 2. All right, and now I got to quit talking for a few minutes. Yeah, deciding which fabric to use. I store my quilting or quilters or craft cottons under our bed. Hang on, F-16's going over. Okay. And I was going through my bins, and I wanted this owl to be more autumnal because it's felt so nice here overnight. We've had beautiful breeze. It got down below 70 last night. And so I had windows open, and it was so lovely. And it was so nice to let the cootie bugs out. I don't know about the rest of you, but as soon as I get weather after an illness, I open the house up like crazy, let that fresh air and sunshine, open all the windows, let the sunshine in. Because if anybody doesn't know, viruses, bacteria, all that kind of stuff, they hate sunshine. They hate a breeze. So that's why I always open up. Now, you might ask, why aren't you pinning this down? Well, we only need one base. So I'm going to cut my body out first. Then I can open my fabric and cut my base out. If you wanted to, you could make your base out of something like felt so that it would be soft on surfaces. I'm going to do mine all in this cotton. So, and I am going to sew mine on my sewing machine because it's all set up with a pretty cream thread, and I just don't feel like hand sewing. All right, we're going to need that piece. And you will know I've also got these on here. You could use these as a pattern. I'm just going to roughly cut a triangle for his nose, and he's going to have button eyes again. So that's just kind of for placement of the beak and the eyeballs. All right, so there's our little body. I'm just going to open this fabric up. And I'm going to pin this down here. Hi, Beck. I'm playing along. Hi, Kimberly. For anybody that's just on my community tab, it's on the tag images, as well as there is a link to my Google OneDrive to the file that contains these owl patterns. If you can't get that to work, I also put the patterns on in my Facebook group. These patterns were hand drawn by me, so they're not available anywhere else online. You have to get them from me. I mean, you can get other patterns, but for this particular pattern, I drew this up myself. Got a nice piece of this left. All these bigger pieces I end up putting back in my the bins under my bed, so that if I want to work on a scrappy quilt, I'll already have some pieces in there that have been pressed and such. Last year for Project Dress a Girl, I really rated my quilt fabrics because I pulled everything out that was over a yard, and that's why I made so many dresses last year. I could probably really make as many as I did last year if I was feeling better. And but I'm going to do what I can do. That's going to be it. All right. Good morning, Gail. So everybody should have 2 bodies, 1 base, and 2 sets of wings. Okay. We're going to set the body and the base aside for right now. I'm going to take the pattern off this wing here. And I've got them both in the same orientation as I cut them out. All right. So there's our owls. What I want you to do when you get to this point, I want you to take the top one off. And set it aside. Put this one face up, just out of your work area. And do the same on this one. Take the top one and save this one right side up. So just set those aside with your pattern. I'm going to put a pin in them so that I don't lose either piece or the pattern piece. So that's what I've got set aside. Okay. So now get your wing pieces and flip them over. So these 2 pieces are now right side up too. Now what we're going to do is we're going to decorate these. So that's why I said, please bring some trims and things like that. The only thing I'm going to suggest is where it's kind of scalloped at the bottom of this wing. I wouldn't put anything way down there. I mean, we could, and then take our pattern piece and put it back on and just trim around. If you want to, you can do that. Um, Keep in mind though, if you put something down toward the bottom, like, let's see, I'll show you what I mean. So say I grab a piece of lace like this. If I put a piece of this down here where it's scalloped, and then I trim it away, unless you do a basty stitch all the way around, everywhere you trim something away, it could fray while you're working on it. But if you want your wings decorated all the way down, that's entirely up to you. Um, I am not going to do the very bottom. I'm going to start my trims up here at this section. So there'll be 3 little humps at the bottom of mine where I'm not going to put anything. All right. So what I was thinking I would do is I would maybe take this trim and go ahead and let it hang off the edge just a little bit. Because again, you can trim it away later. So let's see, I'm going to do like this. And I'll just kind of pin this in here. Another thing to keep in mind, if you are using anything that has beads, sequins, any of that, you want to keep that kind of business away from your seam area. So the width of your presser foot, you need to not have anything, because we're going to be stitching a 1/4 inch away from this edge when we put our layers together. And you don't want to break your needle. You don't want to get your seam pushed into a different direction, which if a beaded trim is in the way, sometimes it'll push the foot and you'll be sewing where you don't want to sew. So I'm going to kind of copy what I've done here. So you can kind of see how this, what's this called? The trim has a decoration. I'm just going to kind of line that same business up here like so. It looks like he's upside down. I must have flipped it. Need to come up a little bit more, I think. If you want to, you could just pin these in place or just layer them and then take a picture and before you start pinning and sewing. If you want to, what is that called? Where you try it out before you sew it on. Oh, the words. Oh, yeah. When you try it out. Yeah, that's it. So see, I could come in, maybe do something like this over top. So basically, you're going to work your way up the wing, layering stuff up as you go. You can go all the way to the top of the wing. Again, we're going to be trimming away. So if you want to incorporate the trims all the way to the bottom, you can. But I think it'll be easier to turn these scallops if there's no trims down here. And I have all kinds of stuff. I got greens and pinks. So play with your trims. If you want to try them out before you start sticking them down, feel free. I've got some trims that have a slight gather, and they'll work too. It's just focus your stitching only on the edge that is the one with the gathering. You would not, on like this piece, I'm going to stitch across the bottom and the top. But if I was starting with this one, I would only stitch that down along the top of this, because you wouldn't want to bother the ruffle bit. So focus on your trims, on how they're constructed, because you don't want to try to sew something flat that's got some gather in it, because it's not going to work right for you. It's just not. Howard, of course, is upset because the door is closed. So let me open it for him. Come on. He'll come busting in like Kramer next thing. At least that's what we say. So I'm going to start stitching. Any questions? Any questions so far? Let me go back up here. Hi, Joni. Oh, awesome, Pam. Thank you. And Nettie's here. Hi, Nettie. Oh, I'm sorry you're still not feeling good. It was a rough, full-on week. I wasn't really feeling myself until midday yesterday. So when they say 7 to 10 days, yeah, it's 7 to 10 days, literally. So everybody, if you want to share me to your groups or, whatever, feel free. I appreciate it. All right, so I'm going to start decorating my birdie's wings. Thanks for the thumbs up. Janet's here. Joyce, hi, Joyce. All right, so let me know if my sewing machine. Oh, I'm sorry, Nettie. I don't have another test here. I'm going by feels. Is this light too much? It probably is, but I have to be able to see. I will turn it off. So I'm going to stitch just along my trim in this little space that looks like a channel. I'm going to stitch there, and then I'll grab another piece of trim and I'll put it in that little area. So I'm going to just stitch my bottom area. You can use ribbons too, which I meant to grab some ribbon. I might do that. Uh-oh, my pin's in the way. Let me move this pin. Your presser foot has to be able to get by. You think? All right. Let's try this again here. And I am doing a little bit of back stitching so that he doesn't come unsewed. And now I'll show you what I did. All right, so can you see the stitching? Yeah, you can see it. I stitched right along there. I just want to stitch it down. And I probably could have switched to a brown thread, but I figured the cream would all be good. I want to get some ribbon. I've got some in here that says handmade. I could put handmade on my owl. When somebody sent that to me. And see, I can tuck this under that, and I could put that on there and stitch across and catch that under there if I wanted to. I'm going to save that though. Somebody put sequin pins in here. They're so tiny. Let me grab some ribbon. Let me grab a ribbon tub. See if I've got some autumnal ribbons. I have this pretty orange stuff here. So, whoops. And because I have not stitched this down yet, this will be kind of underneath here. So what I'm thinking is I'm going to tuck this under the edge of this here. And I'm going to line up the channel. So the ribbon is going on the inside edge of the channel where I'm going to sew it. And I'm going to pin through the ribbon and the fabric like so. That way I've gone through the lace, the edge of the ribbon, and the fabric. So this won't shift around when I start sewing it. And that way this ribbon is caught under there. I might have to use another pin. One more pin. Am I making sense when I say I'm just tacking this in here? So see, it'll be like that. And then the next trim I'll put on in such a way that you'll still see some of that orange. Let me do another piece on here. I can pull these pins out. I've found a delightful lady in South Africa that she sews beautiful things. She just did a video of a wedding gown that she made for a girl that she promised she would make her wedding dress when the girl was 11. And she shared the dress yesterday. I think she actually made the gown in 2018, but she just now shared a video. And I believe her name is Takita. She's just she's one of those people that I say just has an outwardly beautiful soul. And I just love people like that. I think it's wonderful when somebody carries that much joy in themselves that it exudes their being. And I just love to watch her. All right, I'm going to go ahead and stitch in that same little channel on the other side of this trim now. And I want to make sure I'm catching the fabric, the ribbon, and the lace. So I need to turn this light on again. Is Janet sick? Oh, I can definitely feel for you, girl, because I have been so sick. And I can't imagine going through this with no vaccine. I just can't. And I feel bad for those that have to go through it. Okay. Come on, get in there. I'll put a link to the lady I was talking about. I'll put a link to her channel in my description box below. Lesson learned on my flip video. A lady said, "Who is this Mary she keeps talking about?" And I just assumed everybody would know who Mary was because we all know who Mary is. And so I apologized and I said, the Mary Altair, and I will put her link in the description box. So I need to do better about sharing anybody I mention because not everybody knows everybody, regardless of what we might think. All right. So now let's see here. I think we should go back to something a little neutral. And this time I want to catch the top of that orange in some way. But I want to still see it. Let me see, what do I have here? Scott's banging on stuff again. Bang, 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 bang. Scott has a job interview shortly. Oh, this is interesting. And this would, let's see, I wonder if I could sew through the center of that. I don't know if I want to do, I think I'm just going to sew through the ribbon so that I can come up a little bit from it. I looked off for a second, so there's an area on that ribbon that's not sewed. It's not sewed correctly. I felt bad because I'm sick and I couldn't help my niece and her wife because I couldn't be driving them around because my niece's wife has a immune problem. So I definitely didn't want to take us to her. But my niece was in a wreck and she needed someone to take her to pick up the rental car. And I just didn't feel safe about doing that because I didn't want to make anybody sick. All right. Here's a nice flat ribbon. I just really am not liking the white. I want like cream and that kind of stuff. I love this here. This green that's on here. Looks kind of autumnal, doesn't it? So maybe some of that. Maybe we need something else. I have more trim. I do. This is the fun part. You get to play with all the trim you don't normally pull out and do. Ooh. All right. This could be real fun. Look at, I have gold. We could put this on. So that way some of that orange would peek through. So we'll cut this like so. Like so. Hi, Janet Burgess. Hi, Teresa. Hi, Barbara Clark. Roy's here. Hi, Roy. Roy, I loved your little intro video. That was so fun to watch. All right, so this trim has a little bit of a dip here. I'm going to line the top part of that with the stitching on the ribbon, just so a little bit of that orange peeks through. And I am not going to sew across the bottom of this trim because it's got all this delightful activity of its own going on. So I'll put that down there and we'll sew that on real quick. Scott would say, you can sew it on as slow as you'd like. You don't have to do it real quick. It's like when we get ready to go somewhere, I say, I need to run to the restroom real quick. He said, take your time, no hurry. He's such a card. Oh, he heard his name. Aye. Aye. Aye, aye. It's the Scotty.
Yes. Not tie, said Scotty.
Riri. Hi, Riri.
Well, hey, Howard. You're looking handsome today.
Howard says, I look handsome every day. I am handsome Howard Huge.
Howard Huge.
Barb Owen said, I think that cat needs a bigger box. And I said, nonsense. Howard says, I fits, so I sits.
That's right. He seems to love it.
He's actually moved over to his desk chair. All right, let's give this a sew. I could probably put this one on with a zigzag a little better. But I'm going with a straight stitch. If you don't want the white thread showing, you can always come back after you've put your wings together and you could sew some beads along there or something. I just don't want to put any beading on because I just don't want to have any trouble when it comes time to sew my layers of my wings down. Now, if you wanted to do something fun like patchwork wings, you could create your own fabric, sew a bunch of strips or whatever together, then cut your wings out. Then you'd have like the little quilted wings. Now see, the orange doesn't show a lot, but it's still there. Now I'm thinking maybe some of this green now and come up a little bit from there. And again, on this one, I probably won't, I will only stitch along in that little channel. Now, if you wanted to, you could put some narrow ribbon on like a yarn needle and weave it in and out along there so you'd have another color added in. I'm not going to do that, but that's something else you can do. I am going to line where this narrow little channel is. I'm going to bring that down so it kind of runs along the top of the gold I just put down. So let me cut this off here. I'll get this one pinned in place and then I'll do the other one. So you all did such a phenomenal job of just taking the pattern and running with it last time. So feel free to run with this one too. I really enjoyed seeing all the different takes on this little owl that we did last week. And I'm sure you'll do it again. Turn that off so you guys can see kind of what I'm doing here. You can give him as much bling or as little as you want. It's your owl. Yep, fall brings the owls on. Owls and gnomes. I was going to say trolls, but that's not what I meant. So if you don't want a blingy owl, you'd like something more like a Victorian owl, you could just do creams. Just do all your different creams colors instead of adding these other kind of gaudy colors. But I thought, why not let this owl have some blingity bling wings? And since I'm using trims, I can sew over pretty easy. Oh, what's going on? Hey, boys. Cat fight. Oh my goodness. Boys. Now you're hurting Tippy. That's a lot of hair. Guys. Tippy, don't let him beat you up like that. That's all Scott needs is the cats getting into a fight while he's trying to do a job interview. Wouldn't that be awful? I'm also thinking that after we I'm going to cover his wings to the top with trims. And then I'm going to sew my two wings together. When you're sewing them together, remember you have to leave an opening to turn them right side out. And we'll get to that here in just a minute. I'm going to use some of this ruffly lace now, because how fun would that be right on his shoulder? So again, I'm going to take it out past his wing a little bit. Whoops. We'll cut another one about the same length. All right. And I can come up farther because I want the green to show. So I'm going to line up, or kind of line up the edge of this ribbon with the top of the little opening bits. We'll just pin this down. I probably cut too much, but it'll be all right. I'll stitch that down. Sometimes it's hard for me to just say which side is up here. I could probably not need the pins and just take it over and kind of hold this in place, but it doesn't hurt to use the pins either. All right, I'm going to stitch this down here. On this one, again, I'm only going to stitch across the top. I could probably lengthen my stitch. Oh my goodness. I think I have pictures of Tippy laying in the bathroom sink at the cottage. He said he fits, so he sits. All right, and you can see I'm off the edges. I'm not going to worry about that at all. We have room for some more trims up here. Let's see, maybe something a little on the narrow side again, maybe a little red at his shoulders. Get some of this little red trim and cover up that little bit we just put on there. On some of these, I could have sewn the next trim as I was sewing the first trim, but you know. Oh, there's a trucker gearing down out there on the I-77 or 26. I don't know which one they're on. Sounded like somebody was racing last night on the extension. Of course, they could have been late for work at Amazon since they're pretty stickler on time management out there. It's not a very positive place to work from all the reports we see. At least not in the warehouse. And see, I didn't use pins that time. I just started doing, and I got some threads here that need to come off. I'm just kind of eyeballing it on. Let's pull this off from here. Need to come down a bit. Right, get this in here. I do not have an iron out. I probably should. We're just going to go with it. Let's see, what else do we have? I think we have enough room here. We could do another little trim of sorts. My little owl's going for garish. Sorry. What else do we have here? You know, we could add beads and things afterward. Poking through here. Here's another little piece of, no. It's gonna be something. All right, now when I sew this on, because I'm at the very top of the wing, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pin it down and maybe sew around the curve this time so it's tacked all the way around on here. So I'll start sewing over here and just follow the wing and get it tacked onto there. I'm just trying to center those 3 hearts on his shoulder. And when you look at your pattern piece, you'll notice I left just this little hole here. You might want to leave a little bit more of an area open because I've added all of this to this and it might be tricky to pull it through. Tippy, stop. I'm going to spray you. You can go around. All right, so let's see if I can do this. This machine does not have a walking foot, which it would be really nice if it did, but it doesn't. All right, I'm looking through the lace so that I'm sewing through the fabric. And it's a curve, so needle down, lift the presser foot and turn it. Needle down, presser foot lifts and turn. Little teeny turns. All right, so let me do the other one. Oops. All right, has everybody got their wings all blinged up? What I'm going to do is I'm going to flip my wing back down because remember we took the wing that was on top. I'm done with my trim, so I'm just going to kind of heap them up here. And as much as I hate to do this, I'm just going to set them aside. Oh, there's another piece, got away. I'm going to take my pattern piece back. And pin it onto the back of this. And I'm going to trim the bits away. And just trim them off. All right, so I'm just going to take my scissors. I'm going to pretend I'm just cutting it out again. I mean, you could cut just along the fabric, but just in case it got a little on the warped outside, I'd rather do it this way. And I'm not going to hold on to all these little teeny pieces of lace. You can if you want to. I am not going to hold it to you. So see, I've trimmed him. And then this bit's going in the rectangular file here. And then I want you to take that piece that you've trimmed, bring one of these back over here, face up, trimmed piece face down. Line up your edges. And it will not exactly match because some of the stitching you just did ate up some of the fabric. So you want to get as close as you can. All right. I would not recommend leaving your opening on the edge of the scallops. You want to leave your opening on one of the longer edges here, not on the top, not on the bottom, but along in the side. Okay. And what I do to remind myself not to sew all the way around, I'll put 2 pins in a start and a stop area in the opposite direction of all my other pins. That tells me I'm going to start here. I'm going to sew 1/4 inch around all the way around the scallops and everything and stop at this other pin. So let me repeat that again. I'm going to trim this down first with the pattern piece. Oh, Journey, thank you. Hi, Barbara Chicken Pot Pie and Ann and anybody else I might have missed. My computer is over that way, so it's not where I can just glance up because I had to move you guys over here to the sewing machine today. And yeah, that's why I'm not doing too good at keeping up with chat. I thought the main focus would be to work you through these steps. All right. And you can tell by the little opening I left here and what I've decided to do here is 2 different things. So I'm leaving actually about, what is that, almost 2.5 inches opening because I want to be able to get it turned right side out. So let's trim this away here. Trim it away, trim it away, trim it away now. These are my sharpest scissors. All right. A tip, if you're using some lace that's really kind of roughly, you might want to get you a safety pin. And on that one, if it's going to stick out too much, if you can't get it under control when you pin your layers together, you might want to safety pin it somewhere, and then you can take the safety pin out after you've sewn it together, as long as you put the safety pin on the part that'll be on the outside. Does that make any sense whatsoever? Because, sometimes that pre-gathered lace will be really kind of floofy, and you can use that and it'll look cool. It's just you've got to be mindful of it so you don't catch it in the seam allowance. All right, so now again, pull these back out and do the right sides together. So right side of fabric, there's my fabric with the trims on it, and you can see how this one's kind of poking out. I'll have to keep that in mind when I'm putting this together. See how it's wanting to kick out? I'm going to kind of push it so the edge of the lace will get caught in that edge where I'm stitching. All right. And take your time when you're going around your scallops to do the whole drop your needle down into the fabric. Never lift your presser foot off your project with your needle out of your fabric because it'll shift every single time. That's why you should always leave needle in. All right, on this side, I'm going to start leaving my opening here. And again, I'll put one in that same kind of direction so that I've left an opening. So I know to leave that opening. Now, because we're doing a process of where we're just going to do a 1/4 inch seam, I want you to go ahead and bring your body in. And what we're going to do, you are not going to stitch the bottom seam. You are going to stitch from the bottom up to wherever you want to start your opening, stop sewing, lift out, and then wherever you want to start again, start sewing again up and around the top. So what you'll do is you'll stitch up, leave an opening, and then stitch on around the top down to the bottom. And we're going to do that the same time we're sewing the wings up. But leave an opening on one side, okay? Because you've got to have a way to turn your owl right side out. The wings are going to be set aside here real shortly here. So I'm going to put a pin here. And then where I want my opening, I always do this. If you do this and then leave your opening, see what I mean about 2 different directions of your pins? That's just to mentally remind yourself to leave that opening on the side. You're not going to want to try to stitch an opening on your bottom. Not for the... We're going to have an owl that will stand up on his own is basically what I'm trying to tell you. And you have to leave the turning on the side of the owl. And if you do it on the side, wherever you're having to do your hand stitched closure will be covered by one of the wings. Okay? So that's the reason for doing it that way. All right, so let's sew our wings up. Remember to leave your opening between there. So I'm going to do this first, do the wings up. And you will want to do a back stitch so that the stitches are locked in place, because when we are getting aggressive with these wings to turn them right side out, you do not want to pull your stitches out around your opening. We will also be clipping curves to get the scallop on the bottom of the wing and the top of the wing to... So if you beat me sewing around everything I'm going to sew around, if you're finished, wait for me before you start turning things out right side out. I think that's the best way for me to say it. I hit the reverse button. Always needle in the fabric before you lift your presser foot to turn, just minute little amounts to get these tiny curves. I'm sounding like the school teacher, as Dee Dee says. You really don't want things shifting. You really don't. Not when your margin for a seam is 1/4 of an inch. And when you're working on the curved scallopy areas, stop in the sections where it's coming down around here and it's done this curve. when you stop your needle, you want to do it where the next curve and this curve meet. So a 1/4 inch up about there is where you'll want to stop with the needle in the fabric, and you'll want to turn your fabric back toward the direction of the new scallop. Take a few stitches, needle in, turn a little bit, little bits. That way you'll end up with a nice little scallop. And then needle in, and then turn back to the next direction of the very next scallop. And see, I'm making little tiny movements, like 2 stitches. All right, and I've come to the needle that is in the going in stage, so I know I need to come up to it and do a reverse stitch. Okay, and then we're done with this wing. I'll go ahead in case some of you are speed demons. All right, along this curve, you don't want to snip through your seam line. If you turn your wing over so you're not on the side where you've got all your stitching where you put the trims down, if you turn it to this side, you can tell where your actual seam is, and you just want to snip almost to but not through, little teeny snips on the curve, little teeny ones. And then down here where it's scalloped, put a little snip on the curves, and then where it actually goes in, snip to it. You'll be able to see, and I always do a couple on the actual curve of a scallop, as well as where the actual 2 scallops meet. Just be very careful not to snip through your stitches. Now you are free to turn it right side out. Of course, Scott's on the phone and the cats are being bad. Okay. I've got my little turning doohickey. If you've got a chopstick or knitting needle or whatever, you can pull on your edges. This is how you get a good finish on your scallops, is if you use a tool of some sort. You just don't want to push so hard that you push through the fabric. Because guess what? You're not going to win if it busts through. So I know there's a scallop right here. Just gently work it out. It's not a race. It's not a I'm going to get mine turned out before you. It's not that. You will just want to gently work at getting it to where it looks like it's laying nice and flat. All right. And now this is the edge where you'll have to kind of work, and we're going to tuck our edges in and hand stitch this closed. Because of the trim, it's going to be tricky. this is where I absolutely love these little wonder clips. These little clips like this. Tuck a little bit in. Because remember, it's only 1/4 of an inch. So if you tuck a little bit of fabric in, tuck a little bit on this. Our wings might not come out, perfect or whatever, but it's a little owl. So we're going to do the best we can for the little guy. Take your time. Nobody's going to tell you you're not going fast enough around here. All right. So I'll hand stitch it down. If you want to try to press it, you can. I'm not real worried about that. So that's what his wing is going to look like. Okay, so I got to do the other wing now. And we'll have to hand stitch those things closed. All right, so let's do this other wing. We don't have a huge opening to stitch closed. And see, I can still see my scallops because I did those little nips in. Maybe he looks like his feathers are a fluff. All right, so bear with me. School bus. School's out. When the school was just up the road, instead of up the road and down some, the kids would just come walking by. Now they get to ride the bus because they're too far away to walk. But the kids like that, though. I think a lot of us learned a lot of things from our grandmothers. Then there's other folks that their grandma didn't do any of this kind of stuff. The one that sewed the most was my great Aunt Nellie, and she was a quilter. And she did a lot of her stuff was all by hand. And she had one of the wooden frames that would be tied to the ceiling, and they would raise the quilt up when they weren't working on it, and then they'd lower it back down to work on it. I never got to hang with her long enough. I knew she made quilts. I wish I could have spent more time with her. She never had any biological children of her own. She adopted a little girl. But her brother, my grandfather, had 9 children. So she always said he made up for it. All right, so we'll snip. I was watching Kathy going through all the stuff from the old farm and thinking about how our old farm, the farm I grew up on, was sold a few years back, and the man brought in a bunch of dumpsters and everything that was in the houses and in the barn and everything. He just dumped it all into the dumpsters. So I don't know what happened to my baby pictures. I don't know what happened to any of that memorabilia. Of course, my cousins all say they didn't know my baby pictures were there. And although most of them have shared pictures, oh well, it is what it is. All right. Can't dwell on things I have no control over. All right, let's see. Let's sew up the owl. And remember, you want to leave an opening on the side because we're not going to turn him right side out from his bottom this time. I am doing reverse stitches on either side of the opening as well as along the bottom. And I will stop with the needle in to turn. Oh, Tippy. All right, again, I'm going to stop and lift my presser foot out and then come down here and start sewing again. I'll have to get a hand sewing needle out. All right, before you turn your owl right side out, I'm going to finger press my sides opening, my seam flat like this. I'm going to do the same on this side. And I'm just doing a finger press. I'm not doing anything flat. All right. Get your bottom. Oh, that's okay. That's okay, Shannon. Get a good nap. The replay will be there, and you can speed me up and slow me down then. All right. This is your base. These points will go on the sides where you just flattened your seam. Okay. So right sides together. Put that point right there. Put your side right there. All right. Now this is where I like the clips better than pins because now you can, I'm going to put the pins in here, but I'm going to use clips to hold it. And you're going to slowly work your way from one side to the other. Put a little clip. Bring up a little bit more. These are where these are really magical. That's why they call them magic clips. Because if you use as many pins as you need to use these clips, you'll be poking yourself as you try to sew this. This is where I might not have made my bottom small enough. See how I'm getting this extra fabric? That's why I said we might have to do some tweaking. I'm going to pull that pin out here and see if I can get, maybe if I overlap this point by a 1/4 inch, that'll take care. So maybe so there's like a 1/4 inch above that and then put the pin in. I should have tested this one out for you guys. Bear with me for just a minute. So get this so it sticks up about a 1/4 inch above on either end. And then I'll start working my way on the side again. You don't want to stretch and pull though, because then you'll be stretching the bias and then that's not good either. Now, if you wanted to, you could base this in position. I'm a mad woman and I'll probably just take it straight to the sewing machine. See, that did help take up some of the excess fabric just by extending my points above the fabric. So you might have to do that. So you do down one side. Then we're going to turn it and do down this other. And you do not have to leave an opening because we left an opening on the side, and that's where we'll turn it right side out. Stop. Who's digging my chair? This is a little fiddly to sew, but if you take your time, it will go fine. It'll be fine. You just have to take your time. Now, if you're a baster and you love to baste, this would be a good time to baste by hand. I'll leave that up to each and every one of you. They're not happy that I had the door shut, but I didn't want cross phone calls and live streams.
Alright. Can I get 4 AAA batteries, please?
Maybe.
Maybe.
AAA?
No, doubles.
Doubles. How many? 4?
I need a little tray of AAAs too. I'm gonna replenish
3,
flashlights.
4.
Oh, thank you very much.
There you go. This desk holds everything, guys. Sorry.
It's the magic desk.
All right. So if you wanted to and you're still getting extra fabric, just take your pin out at either end and take that fabric up. I got pretty close to the right shape. So what I'm going to do is the part that is the bottom of the owl, I'm going to put against the base of my sewing machine. So I'm going to be sewing here. And so what you have to do as you're sewing this curve, gently shift things, but keep the edges of your fabric together. But anytime you start manipulating or handling the fabric, you will want to make sure your needle is down in the fabric. All right. I'm going to have to take a couple of these off just so I can get under the presser foot. You'll want to make sure it's smooth underneath. And you might have to use a pin or something to get those fabric edges next to each other. There we go. Close enough for government work. All right. Needle down. All right. I'm going to turn it just a little bit because we're going in a curve. Get your edges so they're even again. Stitch a few. Needle down. All right. Now, I'm not going to have them even. Now that I'm in that curve, remember the eye-shaped base is slightly too long. So just sew along the edge of your body to the center of that seam that's open, and stop with your needle down. And you're going to flip his whole body to the other side. Make sure your base is still pretty flat under there, or you'll have a little crease or doodad. All right, then put your presser foot back down. Anytime you have to manipulate the fabric, get that needle in the fabric and then do your moving. And I'm just taking the clips off as I get to them. We'll see how wonky I am when I get around here. Mind your fingers, of course. Needle in, and this is where I have to do a little bit of manipulation because we're coming up on the part where I'm having to do a little bit of adjusting. I'm going to take that pin out, and again, remember the two edges won't meet at the very pointy bits. We'll see how close I get. Stop with the needle down, and we're just about back around. Move your body over. I'm going to drop that presser foot, then take the clip off. And I'll show you what I mean. Let's see, I got a little bit of a pull going on. I think I'll be okay though. Show you what the bottom looks like. All right, so I sewed around, and you can see I've got excess fabric there. I'm not going to worry about that. That's a pattern developer problem. And on this curve, I want to do those snippety dips again, little snips to but not through. What this does is it releases that tension on the fabric that's in the curve that's being forced into submission of the stitches. And if you release that tension with just a few snips on the curve, it'll help it lay smooth when you go to stuff it. So I've snipped the curves, right? All right, now where we've got all this extra fabric, we want to get rid of that. I'm just going to trim it along the body. So I wasn't too far off of what we needed. All right. Did I do the snippies on that wing? I did. All right, now you can turn your body right side out. Oh, F16s. Wait, before you turn it right side out, remember to snip along the curve of his head here. Just on the curved edges. To, but not through. They sure are practicing a lot today. To, but not through. All right, I'm going to turn him right side out. Over here. This is that bottom where he's going to have a flat bottom. We probably should have sewed his nose on, you guys. It'll be all right. I probably should have sewed his nose on before I sewed his body together. That's all right. I'll make it work. Also, if you want him to stand up really well, you could put a little rice in his butt, and that would keep him upright. So we're going to stuff him with some batting. I want to go ahead and turn this other wing right side out while I'm thinking about it. So there's his body. His little wing will go on one side. We got to give him a face of some sort. And this has that curved edge on it too that you can run on the curves. All right, let me get him turned out right side. Oh, yeah. Okay. Bye, Kathy. Sorry I missed saying bye. All right. Note to self, put the nose on first. The nose is supposed to start 2.5 inches from the top is where the nose position should fall. That's what I wrote on the pattern. Uh-oh. I was working my little things out here. Okay. I'll tuck that in and stitch it up. I figure we'll do all the hand stitching at once. I knew this would take us a little bit of time today. So handmade doesn't mean fast, does it? It's not fast made. That's why I've always had trouble selling my stuff, because nobody really wants to pay for the time you have in things. Because see, if I went by my time alone, even if it was $10, I've got more than 2 hours in this. So this is already a over $20 owl. And my time is, my time's worth something. Not to mention, not everybody knows how to do this kind of thing. That's why I don't understand. Some of that's going to be a little tricky to get through. All right, so there's that. There's that little owl wing there. Let's get him some stuff in here. I am starting to get weak on you guys. I can turn this off. Annie, where do we get the pattern? On my community tab, in Aunt Beck's Creations on Facebook. And the one that is on my community tab here on YouTube, there is a Google Drive link that'll take you to a folder that has all of the patterns for the owls in it. I'm just shoving stuffing in him right now. I probably should have left a smaller opening on his body. But that's okay. And it really is better to put smaller amounts of stuffing in at one time. When you put big globs of it, it doesn't compact as well as if you put, oh, Mary's got to go. Well, thanks for being here, Mary. I don't know if I'm going to last much longer anyway. But it is better to do small little bits. And once you get him stuffed and you put his beak and his eyeballs on, which I will do, I'm going to stitch the wings closed, and then you just put the wings on the side like that. And I'm only going to stitch the wings to the body at the shoulder. So I'm just going to kind of do a whip stitch along to just kind of tack his wings on the sides after I get him stuffed and everything. And I will wait until I've got my opening almost completely closed, and then I'm going to put a funnel in him and put some rice in his bottom. So he'll be bottom heavy. So he'll stand up on his own. I get cheap rice down at the dollar store for this kind of thing. If you've got the dal pellets, those work good too, which I have dal pellets. Yeah, I might have to start sewing him shut some so that I'm stuffing him from the top down, from the top of his head down, so that I can put the rice in his bottom, and he'll be bottom heavy. I mean, the rice will probably work up inside the batting, but it'll take it a while. I'm trying to get it packed pretty tight. And I'll just stitch a beak and some eyeballs on him. I'll have to dig through my buttons and see what I can find. So any questions, you guys? You think you can go with it, with what we've done so far? And a little adjusting on the base, but we weren't too far off. I think we came pretty close to exactly what we needed. And I think I will start stitching him so I can get a little bit firmer over on that side. So I'm going to stitch him closed, and I'll keep working at stuffing him. And then I will post a picture on my community tab of my finished owl. And so there's his base, and we'll put his beak. It's got a big old beak, has to go on there. So it'll be like that. And then I'll stick his wings on. So there we go. So I hope everybody's enjoyed the project. We're not going to get him completed today, but you know, once you get the wings turned right side out, you just whip them closed with some hand thread and close this up you might want to, if you haven't started it, you might want to leave a smaller opening on him, just so you don't have so much to hand stitch closed, even though most of it's going to be covered by the wing anyway. You're not going to see, what you stitch closed there. And I will post a picture of what he looks like when he's finished. And I want to thank everybody for being here today. My voice has reached its capacity. Almost made it 2 hours. Let's see here. Barbara says, if you clip the middle of the side first, then the middle of each half, then the fill-in, you can ease it into different sized pieces. Okay. The only thing I would worry about is if you hadn't done any stay stitching, I would worry about, especially with the fabric I've chosen, Barbara, it tears pretty easy. I would have had to have done some kind of stay stitching on it, but that's a really good tip. So does everybody know where to get the pattern now? Are there any questions? Yes, Anne, I will. Thank you for the tip, Barbara. Community tab, yep. All right. Bye, guys. Have a great day.